Guys, so today I will be explaining the Spanish B text types for paper 1. I couldn't find a video on YouTube, so I'm doing it myself. These are this text type, the highlighted ones on the left, are the ones that we have completed in class. So the first one I'll cover is Diario Personal. Note I'm not a Spanish speaker, so hopefully my pronunciation isn't abominable. So first, Diario Personal starts with, you're first going to start with a date or fecha on the top right. Then you're going to include a greeting or a salutation. So it's going to be Querido Diario is a really popular one. And note we're using a semicolon, not a comma. Then we'll be writing the introduction, body. This is where you complete your 2 tasks given from the question. Conclusion, signing off, farewell, and signature. That's for Diario Personal. Now, the register is informal. Make sure that you use rhetorical questions and show the examiner that this is a diary entry, because the diary knows more about you than a blank slate. So, including informal sayings would be best. You should talk about your feelings. Okay, that's too thick. And give justifications, reasons for those feelings, and resolutions and justifications of the resolutions. This is from the official IB guide, so you can use a synonym, but the phrase that you can use for farewell and signature and signing off could be Mañana escribo más, which means I will write more tomorrow. And farewell could be Hasta la próxima vez. I'll see you again soon. I'll see you next time. And signature could be just any name. I usually just put Isabella. That's about it, I think. And how to format a date. So it's going to be the day. Well, we have to put the name of the day too. And then the month. It's probably not right, because the 5th Saturday is the 5th of September. Is probably not a Saturday, but it is what it is. One thing to note is if you're not familiar with the question structure of Spanish B SL Paper 1, how the IB formats it, well, the questions are always going to be something like this. Situation that you're in. So this will tell you the tone you need to use, who you're pretending to be, what you're going to, what theme or what vocabulary you need to use. And then you'll get write a text. And then you'll get two tasks. So for SL, and then you have 3 choices. You pick the most appropriate one that you have after you've gathered the information from the question. You can just choose the one that fits the question the most. So now that we're done with that, let's move on to the next text type, which is email or correo electrónico. So to format an email, this is an electronic email, so something you'd be sending on Gmail, for example. It will look something like this. First is for who you're sending it to, so to, para. Then you can just put something like, it's gotta be like something from the question. So if you're sending it to a college, then you do that. If you're sending it to your friend, then do that. So de is from who it is. So there is from who you're sending it to. Asunto is subject. So what the email is about, which you'll probably get more information from the question. And you can write your own. And enviado, which is the date that it was sent. Same formatting as before, but you don't need to add the day's name. So you can just do 16th of March 2026. Next you're going to add a greeting. So something like, Hola, Antonia. And then you're going to add the intro. You should write the purpose of your email here. Then the body. The body is always for the 2 tasks that were given. Then no conclusion, just a rounding off. Have to add some space. Farewell. And then signature. So for rounding off and farewell, it could be something like atentamente or saludos. So let's go there. Atentamente, which is formal, or saludos, which is less formal. For your signature, just a name. And for the greeting, I would like to add that instead of just hey, name, you can also put estimada, esteemed, and then señora, whatever, or just the hola. So that's it for correo electrónico. The register is usually informal, and the writing has to be engaging. This is a saying I'll be collecting later on for the topic for organización social. So let me just put that back. If you're curious, that that means done with it, I think, or enough is enough. One like a protest or something. Next, let's do the carta informal. The carta informal is also carta personal, and it basically is like a letter between 2 people that, you know, they have some sort of relationship, family, friend, stuff like that. And the structure would be the city and then the date on the top right. So it could be something like Madrid, and then so it could be Madrid, de enero de 20, then the year, as you know. That's not, have to move it again. And then we're going to need a greeting. So you're going to add a greeting like this. It could be hola, like, o querido, stuff like that. And then the intro, which must have the purpose of your letter. And I would recommend a question too. So, how are you doing? How's it been going? Have you been well? Are pretty common. The body. You'll need the two tasks on the question. And then rounding off. Farewell. And a signature. So, in the body, what's also would be recommended is to include feelings or some kind of colloquial, sayings that it establishes a relationship. So, like personal anecdotes. And questions. For the farewell, you can say un abrazo. And for signature, like it's the name. An important thing to remember is to address the reader here and also use personal examples for this text type. That's terrible looking, right? Just watch this video at 2 times speed. That's the only thing that makes sense. An important thing to mention is that you can have a conclusion as well. So, adding it right after the body. Which summarizes the entire letter and the purpose and your opinion on the situation. Let's do something similar. The formal letter, it would be carta formal. It's very similar to a carta informal, but the main thing that different is the tone. Oops. You'll need the sender's address. So it could be something like Isabella Romez, and you write the house number, street number, city, street name, stuff like that, and like just made up stuff. Pin code doesn't really matter. Then the receiver's address. And they can be a Spanish name because, they're receiving the letter in Spanish. And on the right, add the city, and then the date, and a salutation. But only use estimado or something to that effect. Señor, señora, etc. Then write the intro, body, closing, farewell, and signature. For the intro, include the purpose of the letter, and for the body, the two tasks assigned in the question. For the closing, or farewell, you can say en espera de una pronta respuesta. You can probably already guess what it means and hope for a quick response. And you can say le saluda muy atentamente. Which means yours sincerely. And then signature is the name. So that's all there is for carta formal. Let me see if I can fit it in to the section. I will be sharing this So PDF is given to everybody. I think I'll have to get creative with the shapes now. Alright, so let's move on to let's move on to the entrevista or interview, shall we? An entrevista is an interview, so it's going to look like this. Someone asks a question and the other person replies. First, you've got to include a title on what the interview is about and who you're interviewing. Make up their name, it doesn't really matter. Then you write the intro. The intro is very important because you establish the details. What's happening? Who are you interviewing? Why are you interviewing them? Stuff like that. Then you can start with the question and answers. So you don't have to write this, Q&As, but they're written like this. First, entrevistador, or the interviewer, asks a question. Then the name of the interviewee gives an answer. Do this, repeat this at least thrice. And then give a conclusion. Where you give a summary and a call to action on where they can visit you to know more. So here's a couple of things to keep in mind when writing an entrevista. 1. Keep the personality of the interviewee. So add ellipses for pauses and add a couple of, human things like stuttering or trying to think through an answer. And also, try to include questions that aren't just a simple yes or no answer. Lastly, change the rhythm of the questions you ask. So give some short questions, then a long question. Changing up the rhythm makes it more interesting to read. There are some other things to keep in mind that are optional, such as, I'm really struggling with the square here, such as making it sound authentic and giving space for the interviewee to express their personality. So that's it for entrevista. Let's move on to informe, or the report. For this one, I can show my notes. So it'll be something like this. The title of the report, the name and date of who's writing it, and the place. And then a subtitle. And then the intro. You can include a diagram or a graph if you want to, but the main thing is to show what you're talking about as the report. The main purpose of it is to inform people. It's a professional text. Then you're going to write the body, which addresses the two tasks from the question, of course, and also has subtitles. So it's going to be subtitle 1, subtitle 2. And then, oh no. I'll shrink all of this here so it can fit. Subtitle. And of course, there's going to be more text here. So texture, texture, texture of the paragraph, and then a conclusion. So the conclusion summarizes the previous points. So you can use words like en resumen. Also, since it's a report, you, for the title, write something like Revista Escolar 16 or something to that extent, because there's got to be like a magazine or something that it's being published in. That's it for the informe. So let's move on to, well, that was not good. Also, tip would be to end it with recommendations. Well, I hope that's readable. There's also not going to be a lot of, sayings or stuff like that. A report is very factual and to the point. It's even good to remember some stats. So you can add a graph or a diagram. You can add some numbers to it. Even better if you can cite it. Of course, you want to have access to a computer or something, so you're going to have to memorize this, which will strengthen the report. Also, make sure your report is structured in this way. So imagine you're proposing a solution to something. You know what? Our school needs to be more sustainable. Then you can say the problem, then the solution, then ways to implement it one by one. Okay, just came back. Well, not sure where I was before, but alright, whatever. Let's go on to the instrucciones or conjunto de instrucciones. It's going to look something like this. Conjunto de instrucciones. After this, I'll also be making a mock exam video where I take the prompts from sources, let's say, and then do mock exams with it. So I'll write mine, give tips, and you'll probably learn a saying or two. So for conjunto de instrucciones, I can show you my notes again for this because it's not really in an official IB thing yet. First thing would be to include a title. Now this is the advice my teacher has given me. The title should be something very obvious. So instrucciones de something something. About what it's about. Subheadings. So these can be the steps to the instructions. So it could be 1, open the door, stuff like that. Or it would be paso in Spanish. And then you write the text, of course, in bullet points, paragraphs, whatever. Add a couple of images if you want. So you can draw them on. And then a brief conclusion. That's it. Now, a couple of things. At first, this might seem a completely useless text type, but it actually gives you a very good opportunity to use imperativo, the tense. So do this, do that. And the title, some more help could be to name your title something like como something something. So how to, eat healthier. And then the tone must be short, to the point, and the vocabulary, it has to have stuff like, time things, and then, before, first, lastly, stuff like that. And that's about it. You can also add a couple of things such as how to prevent some errors. So, like, before, don't do this. While, I don't know, while eating, don't completely cut out carbs or something like that. So, that's about it for the conjunto de excepciones. Let's move on. Imperative, let's write that down. Alright, the mind map's looking a bit better now. There's more stuff on it. Let's continue with another text type, which is, let's go above to, artículo. So, artículo is probably most closer to an informe. They're practically twins, where okay. Accents are important. An article persuades, while an informe reports or tries to inform, shockingly. An article tries to give their opinion, and it's usually published in like a magazine. So the structure here is, so you're going to need the name of the magazine. So it's going to be something like, so it's, like mi revista escolar. Oops. And then you're going to need a title and the author name on the right. Oh, and a date too. Then you'll have an intro with your purpose, an audience, etc. And your thesis, kind of like a normal essay. Body with the two tasks given in the question. And then the conclusion, where you summarize and give a final comment. An article is a public text, so you'll need to make it engaging. The title has to be, eye-catching. And, okay, I am in a battle of my own. And the vocabulary should also be varied, the structure, the rhythm, and adding some rhetorical questions, and, addressing the reader, suggesting tú, would also help elevate the tone. And it's semi-informal, so you don't have to use like complete academic register, but it certainly helps for credibility. The rectangle keys work, so I'll have to settle for this mess. A couple of things to note and keep in mind is that the article is not an essay, so essays analyze and have a thesis and are more formal. The article aims to inform and connect with the reader, personally. And so you have to use a tone that reflects that. So when you're summarizing, don't actually spend a lot of the words on a summary. Instead, try to, motivate the reader into, doing what you're trying to ask of them to do. You can also include some examples. So, in the last week, there were 47 tons of carbon released from whatever city, which I don't know if that's actually possible. And you can try to be more sentimental, persuasive, engaging with the writing. So instead of saying climate change is a real thing that happens, then you can instead say that climate change, it's real and it's going to affect all of us. Something like that. And it's also a good place to use metaphors and stuff like that to show that you truly know Spanish. This can also happen through saying relatable things like, we've all been there, staring at a blank piece of paper, not being able to write an article. So, now that we're done with that, let's move on to a folleto. So, this one's actually pretty easy. And I would say that it's most similar to el conjunto de instrucciones. What do I do here? Alright then. So, it's also called a poster, not just brochure. And it's a public text type where a lot of people are going to see, so it has to be not personalized, and it aims to communicate information. The structure is going to be something like this. You're going to start with a heading. And then you're going to add a couple of hooking questions. So to find your audience, like, do you care about the environment? Are you a student of this school? And then you're going to add, you can also add an image here. So just like drawing something relevant, and an introduction. The main purpose of the intro here is to engage the reader. So, do you want to go on a trip where you'll do this and this and this and have fun? Stuff like that. So, it's going to have rhetorical questions, and kind of like advertisement almost, where you're really engaging with it, complimenting it. Or at least just something maybe alarming, even if it's not a good thing. And then you have the subheadings. So there's going to be some text here, and then you can add some more subheadings, and then you can even talk in bullet points. And then a conclusion with contact. With contact info. And lastly, a slogan or something memorable with an optional, something cool like a website. An example subheading could be para quién, for who. It's also important to have a call to action here as well. So in the conclusion, include a call to action. And it's, semi-formal text. It's accessible to anybody who can read it. And use lots of formatting. So you can use columns, lists, images, stuff like that to make it appealing. And that's basically about it. Posters are much larger than the other forms of communication, like announcements. Alright, back from something. So now let's continue. Now we're done with the folleto. Let's move on to, I think that's mostly it. This is also not the brochure, the posters. It's gonna be here. So the important things to know is that it's important to organize the information in clear sections. So, who's it for, what we do, and how to contact. And also including stuff like promotions and informations, the benefits, pros, and the things to know to decide whether to, join the call to action. Using lists is pretty cool. That would improve it. And it's important to include specific details. So the price, hours, place, dates. And a couple of last points would be to, design the sections to include the formatting of the text. So a blue box for emphasis, and the final call to action should be concrete with imperative. So, reserva tu plaza. So that's about it for folleto. Let's move on to reseña, the last one. Now, the reseña is probably most close to an article because it's also persuasive. So a review is just as what you would expect. There's something like a book or a movie, and you have to write a review on how it was. This is actually pretty easy to remember. The first is going to be the heading. Something like reseña de, and then title. Then information on it, so you know who the director is. Name of the thing. Genre. Actors. And then we include a kind of a summary of the plot. Well, here. Plot of the the thing. And then an evaluation. This is where the critical thinking goes. The movie explores concepts of this and this using big words like this in order to, probably from a Langlet or Lit class. That will be very useful. Effect on reader. Plot synopsis. Summary of what happens in the movie. And lastly, recommendation. So kind of like a conclusion, which most certainly should include a recommendation. So, did you like the movie? Did you not? Do you think it's worth watching? Do you don't? Do you not? And that's about it for reseña. Doesn't get much deeper than that. A couple of important things to note would be that the text type is critical and it is balanced in its perspective. The vocabulary is descriptive and the language is comparative. So you'll probably use a lot of stuff like, more than this or exceeds expectations. And some other things that could help are don't describe the movie without revealing too much. So the context that is sufficient for your opinion, only write that. Don't really just give spoilers out the wazoo. And you have to pay attention to many parts of the piece of fiction. So this includes stuff like, I'll probably add some space. Stuff like the argumento for like a movie or something, the dirección, the stuff to critically analyze. And for like photography, fotografía, or it could be something more general, like ambiente, atmosphere, environment, or price, or quality of whatever. Yep, and just holistically evaluate the thing. So be balanced with your review, like as I mentioned before. Don't just always be positive and always be negative. There should always be like advantages and what they did well, what they didn't do well, and end with the like a firm like recommendation. So that's basically about it, actually. It could be like a good technique to include credibility. So like, showing that you've seen the movie, it should be like, however, even if like the cinematography was great, the weak dialogue like took away from the emotional impact. And comparisons can be great. So almost kind of like throwing strays. Unlike Disney movies, this isn't just a cash grab. It has passion put into it. It's ultimately the design is very subjective, and it's important to show that you know that it's very natural, sounding but critical, and you have to justify your claims with observation and analysis. Don't just make an arbitrary preference, as that can weaken your line of argument. So that's about it. I've said that like multiple times now. I hope this was helpful in any sort of way. What I'll be doing next is doing a mock exam. So, bye.